It is my pleasure to introduce Julian and Stephanie Fennessy, who founded the Giraffe Conservation Foundation in 2009. The great thing about Giraffe Conservation, they work wherever giraffes are found. They're found all over Africa. They're not restricted to they only care about giraffes and their issues. They work where they are found. Julian spent 2 decades gathering the scientific information to make sure his programs are scientifically based for the conservation of giraffes across Africa. Julian is director of conservation, and Stephanie likes to say she's director of non-conservation, which whatever Julian doesn't want to do, she does. So, GCF, Giraffe Conservation, sounded the alarm on the desperate decline of giraffes across Africa. Julian and Stephanie made the world aware that you go to Africa, what do? You see giraffes. You see giraffes everywhere. You think they got to be more common than cockroaches because they're everywhere, you know. So, but they're really not. All the populations are declining, and Julian sounded an alarm. Because they sounded an alarm, they were listed as vulnerable by the WCN Specialist Group Red List, which really gives them more protection and more interest. It is said people resemble the animals they love, and I just have to comment, in that case, maybe I should be working with giraffes and Julian should be working with okapi. So my pleasure in doing it.
Thank you, John, for the introduction. That was really great, and it's amazing to be here. I mean, for years we have been following the... Okay, sorry.
You gotta dance.
That helps me with being nervous. So maybe all the people who stand on the side.
And we got it.
Find us in the meantime. Excellent. So.
No, can't hear.
Still not? Can you hear me now? No. 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 I can try and shout a lot. Or do you have a handheld, or is that? What do I do? I'll just start. Okay, I'll try and shout. But we also have sound. Is that going to work? The sound effects? Don't know.
Julie.
Okay, I start.
Take this off.
So again, thank you very much for allowing us to be on the stage here tonight. It's a really amazing experience to be here, to be part of this conservation community. And as John said, we have been working on giraffe conservation for many years. And we have been saying for many years that giraffes are in trouble, but no one has really heard us, which seems to be happening now as well.
You want to turn mine off? That would help.
No, you don't have to. We're back online.
Giraffes are some of the most iconic animals in Africa. Is that so? Yes. Everybody loves giraffe. Everyone comes to Africa to see giraffe, but no one actually says it. Everyone comes to Africa to see elephant, to see lion, to see leopards and cheetah. But if people go home and haven't seen a giraffe, they are deeply disappointed. But no one really pays attention. Anyway, this is our first time at WCN, and we didn't really know how things work, so we thought we'd bring an old friend along to introduce us. And I hope the sound works now.
Julian and his wife Steph run the Giraffe Conservation Foundation, or GCF, from their home here in Windhoek, the capital of Namibia. It's the first giraffe charity in the world.
I heard it here. Some people recognized the voice. There was Sir David Attenborough, and we were lucky enough that he narrated a documentary that was done on giraffe and on the work of the Giraffe Conservation Foundation. It was Emmy nominated. Last week, didn't quite make it, but still. we feel a little bit that we should actually retire because this was now the pinnacle of our giraffe conservation career. I mean, what else can come? So yeah, thank you for that. Giraffe conservation for us really is a family affair. These are our kids, Luca and Molly. They probably have seen more giraffes in their lives than they ever wanted to. Luca told me the other day he saw his first okapi in a zoo, and he told me okapis are actually his favorite animals. So. But we're here to talk about giraffe and not about us. So I'm going to hand over to my husband, Dr. Julian Fennessy, who is the world expert in giraffe conservation. And I love saying that, it sounds so cool. I'm married into it, but I think I know a thing or two by now as well. So I hope you enjoy.
You'll get to hear a bit more from Steph later. Giraffe conservation is about people. Just like anything we've heard today from people all over Africa and the world, conservation is about people. We're fortunate enough to work with many people. This is a photo from Uganda, where recently we translocated 19 giraffes to help set up a new population giraffe on the south side of Murchison Falls National Park. We have people from all over the world here working with us, collaborating. It's really a team effort. Giraffe are absolutely iconic. They, as Steph said, is one of the most iconic animals in the world, but unfortunately, things have not gone to plan. Human population is a huge issue. The threats that giraffe face are very similar to those of others. Here, in Nairobi National Park, this is a Maasai giraffe walking freely. However, historically, these giraffes could roam south through the Kapiti Plains and down south. Unfortunately, giraffe populations are becoming more and more sort of diminished or controlled as human population growth. Bottom line is, we need to stop breeding. Not many people want to talk about it, but that's the number one problem. As human population increases and the desire and the need for Africa for development increases, so does the threats. This is a West African giraffe. Beautiful. Niger, or Niger, as you guys like to call it. This is a new railway that was built between the capital, Niamey, and to the border to the east in Nigeria. This, what they also termed the white sock giraffe or the white giraffe, numbers have absolutely boomed. 20 years ago, there was 49 individuals left in the whole West Africa. Today, we number more than 500. But sadly, it's not all rosy. This unfortunate giraffe was passed away as a result in northern Tanzania looking for a cure for HIV/AIDS. It has about as much effect as the rhino horn does have on people and their libido. It's not a good story, but we're not about good stories sometimes, but what we need to turn those stories around and find positive. So as John said, over the last 20 years, we've helped pull together numbers with partners from across Africa to figure out how many giraffe there are. Wouldn't it be a good idea if we know how many there are? John struggles with okapi to figure out, and he's in a desert, or in a forest. We are the total opposite. We should be able to count them. So with partners, we've physically gone out there and counted individuals. There's air counts, sort of from the Great Elephant Census that Ian and Frank have been doing over the years. And together we've been able to pull these numbers down together, and over the last 30 years, the decline has been almost 40%. It's just an absolute amazing thing for us to have realised that there's this silent extinction. So most recently, the IUCN listed them as vulnerable on the red list. This is a big thing. Governments really now are standing tall for giraffe as a result of this effort. But what we need to do is we need to understand giraffe. We need to understand where they are, how many there are, and what their range is. But what we need to figure out, importantly, is how to work with governments better. governments control the conservation management in each of the countries we work in. And we're quite fortunate. We work in 14 countries in Africa, and hopefully we will continue to work in all of the 21 where giraffe currently exists. But we are a little bit like a WCN, we find, but it's a smaller scale. We're a network organisation. We bring together partners. We work very closely. Here in Niger, we've worked with the government for more than 10 years, and we also work with the Sahara Conservation Fund. If anyone knows about their work, it's truly phenomenal. They've just helped reintroduce the extinct oryx in the wild back into Chad. And to be able to partner together with good, solid organisations is something that we pride ourselves on. And partners is key. Here we've got individuals from the Uganda Wildlife Authority. We've got young Arthur Meneza up here, who's our East Africa Giraffe Coordinator. And we've got really cool things we get to do. Have any of you guys moved a giraffe on a boat across a river? Really, really cool. Someone there's done it. So we have 3 focus areas on what we do. We have strategic planning. We help governments set up national strategies. And we've been currently working in many countries to be able to facilitate this. This is the basis for any further implementation we can do and really sets the baseline for our work. We get on the field, we have a bit of a laugh, and we help implement projects in many places, as well as help partners to implement projects. It's really important to be able to get on the ground, share these skills and experience. And that's linked closely with our 3rd objective, and that's education, awareness and capacity building. These guys are the future of Africa, as John said. If we are not there to help Africa build its conservation sort of remit and be able to bring it forward, then we have not done a successful job. So, in saying all that, do we really know much about giraffe? Lion, moose, koala. If you've actually heard a koala, it sounds very similar. This is actually a giraffe. And I'm sure many of you have never heard a giraffe ever. Giraffe, until a few years ago, people thought were mute. That was what the world knew. And there's been more and more information now shared. Unfortunately, this is a bit of a stressed animal, and it's obviously telling us, leave us alone. So when we captured her, and she gave us the shout, we did let her go, and she went back to her calf about 10 kilometres further back. It was a good thing. But the limited information that we know, we don't even know if they communicate. So how can we help save giraffe in the wild if this is sort of the most basic of information? So, linked to that, and we're a science-based organisation that implements conservation. It's really critical for us to be able to understand what is happening on the ground to make the right decisions. So a few years ago, and working with Senckenberg Museum in Frankfurt in Germany, we decided to start a study on DNA sampling. Genetics is the basis of all of us. But how do we get to understand, is there 1 giraffe, 2 giraffe, 3 giraffe or more?
Time is running out, and Julian knows we urgently need to take our understanding of giraffes to a new level. He has a revolutionary theory, that there's not just one species of giraffe divided into slightly different subspecies, but there are instead many unique species. If Julian knows how many species there are, he can see which are most in trouble and take immediate action to save them. But only by analysing the genes inside the giraffe can Julian prove how different they are. To do this, he's been taking samples of their skin and testing their DNA. The information inside tiny plugs of skin like this could give Julian the power to save whole species we didn't even know existed.
Pretty cool. And most important for us, as Steph said, we have our family around with us, what we do. But this little piece of tissue is basically the basis of life for giraffe. So what have we been able to find out? We propose that there is 4 species of giraffe. We don't just do that for fun. It's not to create a name. I'm not a splitter or a clumper, as the genetic world call them. What I am is about conservation. If we can use this knowledge to be able to figure out how to best conserve these 4 species, then we're getting the first part of our job done. So what we think, we have the Maasai giraffe. If anyone been to Kenya, Tanzania, but it's also genetically identical to the thorny cross giraffe in Zambia. Then we have the next one, which is the northern giraffe, includes the Nubian giraffe, the Kordofan giraffe, and the West African giraffe. And unfortunately for the Rothschilds Banking Corporation, that goes away, the Rothschilds giraffe. So some people are a little bit happy with us for that. Then we have the reticulated giraffe of northern Kenya, absolutely stunning animal. Many say it's the most beautiful giraffe, but obviously there's bias amongst all of us. And then the last one is the southern giraffe, from the Angolan giraffe and the South African giraffe are subspecies. So importantly for me and for Steph and for Arthur and all the work that we do across Africa is, if they are genetically distinct, let's not move them together. They can hybridize, they can mix and match, but they do not in the wild. We have a new paper that's actually just coming out very soon that shows that there is no mixing in the wild between these species, which is absolutely amazing for us. And it further shows that we probably need to keep these guys separate. This is their distribution across Africa. We see the northern giraffe in green are very much in their small area. The reticulated giraffe in northern Kenya and spread across into Somalia and into southern Ethiopia. Again, we find the Maasai giraffe, as said earlier, from Kenya, Tanzania, down into Zambia, and then the southern giraffe across the bottom area. And why is this important? It's important because if we are to conserve these, the vulnerable listing of giraffe was really valuable. We gave giraffe a voice for the world for the first time in December last year, and that was so valuable. But if they were to be labelled and named properly as species, 3 or 4 of them, or 3 of the 4, would be listed as endangered or critically endangered, and it would give the world even more attention to focus on saving these guys in the wild.
It's pretty amazing what difference one idea made for the giraffe world, isn't it? Another idea that was quite big for us as an organization, for GCF, was World Giraffe Day. Has any one of you heard of World Giraffe Day? Celebrated it? Excellent. So we chose the 21st of June. Any idea why? Longest day exactly for the tallest animal. We had a bit of a discussion about it because Julian comes from Australia, so he wanted the 21st of December, but we thought that's not a good day for fundraising. So World Giraffe Day we really use to bring attention to our gentle giants. Zoos, organizations all around the world celebrate World Giraffe Days, schools do events, and it's really a big day for giraffe, but also for fundraising. And it helps us to fund a lot of our programs and projects all around the world, all around Africa. As Julian said before, giraffe conservation comes in many different shapes and forms. We do work with governments. This is a photo taken in Uganda recently, where we work with the government on the first national giraffe conservation strategy, which will hopefully inform giraffe conservation for years to come. And Julian is going to talk a little bit more about the program in just a moment. Then there is the Democratic Republic of Congo. There's about 42 giraffe remaining, and we heard from John before what difficult conditions there are. Giraffe occur in a different part, in Garamba National Park. There's only 42 remaining, and it's basically a military operation to save these giraffe. We work with partners there, African Parks Network, the government, and it's a very different way of working. Another country that is quite challenging in its work when it comes to giraffe is Ethiopia. Julian traveled a few years ago to find out what is going on there, because no one really knows how many giraffe are there, which flavor of giraffe are there. He was desperate to get some genetical samples and equip some of the giraffe with some trackers to find out where they move. They looked for giraffe for many days on the ground, but they couldn't find any, so they eventually took to a helicopter. And that night I got a phone call from Julian, and he told me that they had been shot at by South Sudanese rebels. They all got away, nothing really happened, and he was very relieved, so was I, obviously. But then the next day he forgot to call. And I was literally sitting on the couch making a list how I would continue with life as a single mom of two. But yeah, we changed our communication policy. We have strict rules. Field stories stay in the field, or they're told when he's back home, and not before that. But, as we said before, we want to talk about some conservation success stories. And now Julian is going to take you to our home, Namibia, beautiful Namibia.
So maybe some of you, thanks Steph, have heard of a little place called Nambia. We're still trying to figure out where it is, but maybe we can discuss that after. But we maybe think it's somewhere between Namibia and Zambia. Namibia, the land that God created in anger. It's one of the most beautiful places in the world, and we've been fortunate enough over the last 14 years to call it home. It is an area that is so stark, so amazing that giraffe, elephant, rhino, the largest black rhino population outside of a national park, live in an area with less than 50 millimetres of rainfall a year. For all of you that don't understand the metric system, that's a really little amount. So here up in northwest Namibia, this is home to what we call our largest giraffe conservation effort ever. For the last 20 years, we've been tracking giraffe in the desert. We've been following their lives and figuring out what they do, where they go, and how they survive. For the first 5 years, I never saw a giraffe drink once, ever. An amazing place, an amazing long-term conservation sort of story which is helping us tell better stories. And those better stories are through the children. We have a program in Windhoek called KEEP, which we keep everything environmental. It's the Commerce, which is the capital of Windhoek and the area, environmental education program. We're fortunate enough to take on average 2,500 children a year out into the wild. Most of these children come from under-resourced areas. They have never seen a wild animal in their life. Yet they live 10 kilometres away from where these giraffe are. Absolutely amazing. Be able to take these kids out there and find animals, learn about the environment, learn about everything from litter, the problems of recycling, learning all about everything that in their daily life we can help them do better. And when we can't find animals, we find the spoor, the footprint. This is a giraffe footprint. As you can see, it's quite large compared to the hands. And what they do is they follow and track these animals. It's one of the longest things done in history, follow animals around. And if we don't find giraffe, we always have fun. Kids are happy, and this is really important. If kids are happy and they're healthy, every child that comes on this program gets a healthy lunch. And for many of them, it's the only big meal that they have for the day. So it's critical. If we can keep people happy, we can feed them well, we can have the future leaders of Namibia supporting conservation efforts. So whilst that might be our favourite country, we can't be too biased. There's 13 others out there so far we work with. This has to be up there with one of our second favourite, Uganda. Ugandans themselves are some of the most lovely, beautiful people in the world. The smiles are as big as the bananas that come off their trees. These is home to the Nubian giraffe. We would have called it Rothschild's giraffe a couple of months ago, but we'll have that discussion, as I said earlier. And this is absolutely beautiful environment in Murchison Falls National Park in the north of the country. It's home to probably the largest, or if not definitely the largest population of Nubian giraffe in the world. About 50% of the world's population of Nubian giraffe live here, just north of that little river called the Nile. Beautiful landscapes, beautiful wildlife here, teeming. And interestingly, lion do not hunt giraffe here. There's so much other wildlife that it's abundant here that lion ignore these guys. However, they have been under threat. It is on the border with what's called Lake Albert, and across the river where poaching occurs, it comes from the DRC. Unfortunately, the DRC is getting a bit of a bad rap today, but we need to be able to get better education and awareness out there. But the snaring is about 2% of the population. This is probably the biggest threat we are now facing: mining. 90% of Uganda's population of oil sits under the feet of the most threatened giraffe in the wild. These guys are about to start full-on mining. Exploration has been going for a few years. What can we do? We try hard. We try to make a difference, but we're small. We're a small organisation, which we think we have a big impact. But we need to do something. And we realised this, and working with the government, we started to do something.
So it's really important when we've got a giraffe down that we try and get as much information as possible. This is to put on the GPS satellite collar, but it could be anything about hoof study, blood work, giraffe skin disease.
Now keep coming. Now keep coming on your side. Flag of our animals.
This photo was taken about 30 seconds after the last giraffe were released, and you can see the pure joy on all our faces after about 3 weeks of hard work, long days, 2 broken arms, lots of pain, but yeah, it must have been one of the most amazing things we have ever done in our lives, working in Uganda, translocating these giraffes and creating a new population of giraffe. So, can you guys imagine a world without giraffe? We certainly can't, but we also truly believe that together we can make a difference. The time is right to act now. We don't think we have time left to do more research or to continue only doing research. It's time to act now to save giraffe in Africa. And with your help, we are confident that we can make a difference and save giraffe. So please come and see us at our booth, talk about how you all can get involved, visit our website, talk to your friends, and please let everyone know giraffe are in trouble, but it's not too late. Thank you very much.
So I guess, no, I can turn it. Is mine on?
Yeah, you're on.
Is it on? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
It's an okapi thing.
Well, thank you so much, Julian and Stephanie. That was really a remarkable story. Thank you so much for that. A lot easier to see a giraffe than okapi. A little jealous, but I know what the beauty contest, who would win. So, so we have time for a few questions. So we have some microphones in the audience, and we'll let them choose who's asking.
Both of those were fantastic. Thank you very much. So with the giraffes, how do you tell the different species apart besides the pattern? Is there anything structurally, like physically, if the pattern say the giraffe was one color, unicolor, are there characteristics with the horns? I mean, what else differentiates the species?
So between the different species, some of them have 2 major horns, or what actually ossicones. Some of them have 3, and actually some of them are 5. So that's a head structure is very different on the different giraffe across Africa. We obviously, the pattern, some of them have patterns below the knees, some not. Obviously, different patterns change between different areas. Genetically, we're talking about a difference about 1.5 million years, which is more different than polar bears and brown bears. So those things combined and the geography where they are, we get to sort of figure out who's who in this big giraffe zoo. Some of them we've got others that are considered subspecies of them. So in the northern, we have the Kordofan, West African and Nubian giraffe. And in the southern, we have the Angolan and the South African giraffe. But all the rest are at species level, the 4 of them. Not below that. And if you go out, we have a nice little brochure outside where you can learn a little bit more about that.
Yes, I'm Carlos Drews representing the Jane Goodall Institute. John, thank you very much for that presentation. 30 years of very, very hard conservation work. I know the DRC well. I always come out very discouraged. I came very encouraged out of your presentation, so congratulations. It's very, very impressive. I have a question for you. At the end, you point at with the children that the future lies. They are the custodians, of course, of all these areas and their wildlife. I'm curious as to whether today your adult population, not the children, your adult population, with all these good things that you have done for them and the linkages between healthy forest, healthy people, whether there is already this sentiment of recognition for conservation, so to say, whether you get indications that the communities will actually already be acting as custodians if the time comes when they need to step up.
That's a good question. There's 2 points to that. And first, Marcel, I showed there, he was a great believer, first was a teacher, that children are agents of change. They go to home. They talk about what they heard today to their parents. We can't reach the parents, we can reach the children. So this agent of change takes time, and we believe that more kids, and the kids are so enthusiastic, they get it, they really get it. Parents may not, but they go home and talk about how much fun they had, what they're learning. That's one point. We really don't have quantified data on how effective our programs are. All we can measure is reduction of slash and burn agriculture, so staying within the agricultural zone, but also when you go to communities and They inform us of illegal activities. They inform the ICCN that there's certain new people in the area that could be causing trouble. So this network of concern for the environment does indicate to people, they let us know. We wouldn't know this if they didn't tell us. We have no idea. We only have a few intelligence agents working the whole reserve. And just as a story I told in our newsletter before, we had a group of delegation in the North Reserve coming back by motorcycle on a very bad road, and some poachers had set up an ambush, 14 of them with guns on both sides of the road. The local people were allowed to pass. They told their chief that there's some people down there causing bad things. The chief went right to the ICC and told them about the imminent attack, which put his whole village in danger. These poachers can come back that night and kill everybody in that village. They easily could have done that. And so the Rangers came around, snuck around behind the position of the ambushed poachers, and the firefight broke, and one of the poachers was killed, but they were dispersed and abandoned. But the main thing, as I say in the article, every one of those people in the delegation we can't replace today. That knowledge, that experience we have in these people, in government, in the ICCN, WCS people, local community leaders, it's taken 20 years to get this, and if we lose them, we can't replace them today. There's no mechanism in the country. We can't get a visa for a Congolese to come to the United States. I've never, in the last 5 years, I've tried. I can't get one of my staff members to come here. Not allowed in the United States because they come from the Congo. So I used to take them in the United States and train them. We used to send them to Europe. We can't do that anymore. So building capacity really is dependent on what we have on the ground today and what they can infuse in their comrades. So that's another reason about communities can help us in many ways, but intelligence gathering is the key thing when you have a lot of people trying to do illegal activities. So it's really important. So that's a good question there. Thank you.
Cool.
One more giraffe question?
No. How tall is a giraffe?
Yeah.
So the question is asking about the giraffe that we moved across the south side of the Nile River, what was the composition that we started? So important about that is giraffe don't live in tight social structures like elephant do. They live in very loose, what we term fission-fusion relationships. So when we try to set up a new population, we obviously take a lot more females than males. Let's be honest, males are fairly redundant. So what we try to do is just take a minimal number of males, and in this one I think we took 13 or 14 females and the remainder were males. This is actually the second time we've done it, and the population at the moment is 34 on the south side. And hopefully over time they have a huge area that they can grow in, and it can set up a really viable, sustainable population of giraffe for the future.
So we'll be at our table to answer any questions and talk to you about this. So please, Julian and Stephanie will be at our table upstairs, and we're downstairs, the Okapi Conservation Run. Thank you again so much.
Thank you.